on winning.
Yeah, but I haven't even met the team yet, and our first game's like a week away.
Yeah, we better get on that.
Now, the world will tell you that it's all about winning. Greatness ain't defined by winning. See, I expect us to become a family.
I'm trying to teach these boys to respect one another.
Check it out.
You guys seen this?
What's with the, the running of the.
My Uncle Josh had a heart defect, and he died during a game. So my dad runs the bases in honor of God and the memory of his brother.
All right, so my name is Lucas Hoover. I'm here with Panther Productions, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time to sit down with us. For those watching, this is Mr. Jimmy Womble, screenwriter. I would say best known for Running the Bases, but he does have more projects in the works. Getting started, let's go ahead and start with your roots. What was the first thing that got you interested in writing films, and what had motivated you to push that interest to the next level?
Well, that's a really good question. I've been in film production for, let's just say, a long time. When I finally decided that that's something I wanted to do, I kind of avoided doing feature films and was into motorsports marketing and corporate content. So in 2015, things started changing a little bit as far as the type of work I was doing. And it was sort of like, what's next? And the thing I said I'd never do was the only thing I could think about doing. So it was I had written a lot of stuff for the kind of work I was doing, but I'd never written a full feature narrative screenplay. So me and a friend of mine, we decided we were going to at least attempt to write a story. So that was the project that would later become Running the Bases. Our first draft of that thing was like 170 pages, and at about a minute a page, if you go by that logic, it's quite a long film, especially for a faith-based.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of the really catching the bug. I mean, it always been a creative type, directing and editing, and I would rewrite things that other people had written to make it sound more human. So how did I get into it? It was probably a little different than most people, but I think everybody's story is probably pretty unique in where that passion came from. But I would say sort of forced into it in a way, and then after actually learning, how a good story is constructed, and that wasn't something I figured out before I started writing. I had to do it the wrong way first. Thus 170 pages. So it was after that, and then beginning to see what really made a good story and how good stories were constructed, especially stories that would later work on a screen, become a film. That became a new passion, and it has become something that has probably replaced other passions, but it is the thing that I think about constantly now: how to write a better story, how to make stories that I already have existing, how to make those better, because I never really stopped messing with them. So, sorry, long answer to a very short question.
No, I mean, I think it's a great answer, though. Moving on, on that journey, what were some adversities that you had faced along the way? And how did you push through those?
Well, you mean from the writing side or the filmmaking side, or just in general?
Just in general.
Because adversity, man, lurks around the corner of every part of filmmaking. I mean, stories don't want to get told, films don't want to get made, and they certainly don't want to get edited. And I work at every phase of that. first becoming an editor, and then I sat in the edit suite yelling at directors for not getting the right coverage. So I finally decided, I'm just, I think I could direct these things better than the guys that are directing what I'm having to currently edit. So from that became a passion for directing, trying to make sure, uh, seeing the vision on the front end and then going, I know how to do that. I know how to get that out in the field because I know what is required in the edit suite. Um, so, but if you go all the way to the very beginning where the story is being constructed, because you and I talked before, it's impossible to make a good film without a good script. You can make a bad film with a good script, but you can't make a good film with a bad script. I think I finally said that right. But the adversity that I experienced um, had a lot to do with the people I was working with, and I reluctantly said that because it's not a story I really publicly like to go into. Um, but I will, by bringing it up, I'll just say this: uh, make sure you're compatible with who you're collaborating with. If you set your ego aside, make sure they set theirs aside too. And then constantly be willing to look inward, not just across the table. Look inward, making sure you're someone that you want to work with. Um, I love to collaborate. That can be a challenge in itself because it's give and take. Who decides whose ideas are better? Um, but in the writing side, I think it's more or less learning a system and developing a system that works for me and how what a good story looks like. How does it and how it flows. On the filmmaking side, trying to wrangle 50 to 100 people in a direction that you want them to go and get them to understand your vision. And then be willing to mold someone else's ideas into your vision. Be that open. On the editing side, it's constantly be looking for other ways to tell the story because that's where you usually make another version of the film. But adversity can come in many ways if you're not looking constantly for ways to overcome problems that haven't even happened yet. So,
I mean, I think that's great. Um, you know, obviously film takes a lot of time. As well as that, you're a guitarist for River of Life Church there at Harrison. How do you manage to balance those rehearsals, the time working on film, and just all of your other life as well?
well, um, it's tough. Sometimes you just need a break, and I think more than anything, sometimes I need a break from writing. Sometimes I need a break from worship band. Sometimes I need actually. And here recently, I have stepped away for a short time uh, because I needed one of those breaks. Because I live an hour away from church. Um, that's 2 hours of driving every Sunday. Uh, so uh, the balance comes from knowing your limits and when to hit pause on something because if you're passionate about a lot of different things, you're going to be going nonstop. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now, especially with playing in a worship band. But I still have a passion to play all the time. But right now I'm kind of more in film mode. Uh, I haven't taken on any new scripts. I've outlined some ideas for some new stories, but what I'm really focused on right now is trying to get moving in the direction of actually making films of some of the scripts I've written over the last 3 years.
Mhm.
Um, so, it's give and take. If if you're going to throw your 100% into something, one particular thing, then something else has to give.
Mhm.
And communicate that with the people that depend on you. Um, and it just here recently, it did get to be too much, and I communicated that. And I said I need a break
Yeah.
uh, from worship band because I need to focus on the career side for now. Um, but that's how I balance it. I used to not be able to say no, and
Right.
I was miserable for it. And I've just decided, with the help of my wife, is to say, okay, I've reached my limit. And sometimes
Right.
it's best to start calling things out of your daily routine before you reach your limit. But
Mhm.
I'm a glutton for punishment, so I usually wait till I'm a little bit past the limit. And someone close to me, usually my wife, will say something's got to give because you're hard to live with. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's awesome that you're able to take that step back and say, "Hey, I need a second." Because I know that that's something that I've struggled with in my own journey. I've not been able to tell myself, "Wait." So, is that just something that comes with time, or?
Yes, as you can tell by looking at me, it comes with a lot of time. it it when I was your age, I didn't have a clue. I mean, because I didn't need sleep back then. Um, and even with 5 or 6 hours of sleep, now it's pretty much my normal schedule. But um, uh, my days usually start with me just thinking about what the day's going to be like. This is the life of a filmmaker. It's not a 9 to 5. It's kind of a 6 a.m. to you know midnight. Yeah, because when do you decide to turn your brain off? Uh, because you've committed to making a living with what comes out of here. Um, and I'm not a really bright, smart, intelligent person, so I have to work at it. You know, um, sometimes the moments I'm working alone is the time where I'm developing my approach to something, and then by the time I get with someone to collaborate with, I kind of at least know on my end how what my approach is. Uh, but and then everything changes when you find someone you're compatible with. Sorry, my heater kicks on. If that makes noise, I can turn it off. Um, when you find someone you're compatible with creatively, um, then you're able to just run a little more wild and free. Uh, I'm sorry, what was the question? ADD kicked in there. Um, yeah, it's just
It was just coming with time.
I'm sorry. That's cool again.
Um,
I
so
gotta turn this off.
yeah,
Sorry. Uh,
no, you're fine.
there we go. It was causing your audio to cut out. So
Was it?
all right.
The question was just on whether or not that comes with time, the being able to step away.
Yeah, it really does. You've got to, you know, I think for me, it's trying to stay focused
Mhm.
because I do have real ADD really bad, but I can hyper focus, but then I can't do anything else. So multitasking is not my thing, but I can hyper focus on one thing. Um, um, and at some point in time, you have to step away, and it is important to manage um, the stress levels. Is you have to manage your time and your day in a way that is conducive for not going crazy.
Right. So your film, Running the Bases, it's had personally a big impact on me. and I'm sure there's been countless others. How does it feel to have a film out there that you know has made a difference?
Well, it feels great for one, um, and it's good to hear you say that. Thanks for saying that. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, uh, it's great because that's the reason why we made the film. We at the time, I was really thinking message first,
Mhm,
and it was um, how can we wrap a story around this message?
mhm,
And then in that is the secret sauce for getting a very preachy faith-based film. Um, not that it's bad. If you're going to make that type of film, at least at least try to make sure the story uh, is that you do the story justice and not just get lost in okay sermon time. Let's pause the story. Let's insert sermon. Okay, hit play again, and we can resume the story.
mhm.
Try to pull all that together. But um, I felt like creatively we did some things that were a little different than your typical faith-based film, and I think that maybe helped a little bit with delivering the message. But I've heard some great. I still hear stories of people talking about uh, things uh, that had changed in their life because some recommitments that they made, or they were it helped them look inward and sort of rethink how they were living their faith out loud. And so it, it it's humbling, I will say that, because you think about the messages you put in your own film and you write in your own scripts, and you go, "Am I doing that? Am I living up to my own message?" Um, and in in a lot of days I don't. I'm just human, and we all make mistakes, and we all you know re-examine our day, situations we were in, or people we were around, and we go, "Man, I had a great opportunity there, and I missed it." I could tell that
Right,
person was hurting, or they could use some guidance, or maybe I needed some guidance, and they needed an opportunity to share their experience with me. Um, but I think making faith forward messages in film type films and movies, and I think you hope, but you also expect to hear those kind of stories, because if you don't, it's like, why am I doing this?
right. And I think, I've been online, I've looked at the online presence of the movie, and I've seen that people have said, even those who aren't fans of faith films do say that this has done something different. So I think that's great that that came across that way.
Well, thanks for saying that, because at the time we wrote that, mm, I didn't really understand the type of film that I
Mhm,
wanted to make, other than you know we've got to get this message out there.
mhm.
And I've shifted a little bit since then, in my style of writing. Um, I've uh, I I'm proud of running the bases, and there's something to think of when you make a film. It's out there forever. Somebody long after I'm gone may stumble upon it and go, "What is this?" And they may, and they may go, especially the way we look at films 50 years ago. Today, we'll look at them and go, "Oh, geez, boy, that was really bad." But then you
Right.
start really taking it in and start watching it and go, "Wow, there's something here that I need to pay attention to." So I hope,
Mhm.
at least for running the basis, that that's the case going forward years from now. And then the kind of stories I've been telling, writing, and hopefully turning those into films within this year, actually.
Yeah.
Um, those are a step forward into more of a gritty and really real uh, type story first story. So I've I've made a shift because I'm not backing away from message, but I'm putting story first, and it
Mhm.
really makes the message more subtle, but in a way much more powerful.
Right. I mean, I think if you have to dig in and find that message, I think you'll have a better experience with a film overall. Um, this podcast, obviously, it's stemming from a media class. You know, would you talk a little bit about networking and how social media plays into the role of marketing a film?
Well, there's all kinds of networking, right? What what you and I have done. I mean, when I met you a couple years ago, I mean that was networking. You know, when you expressed to me that you wanted to um, be a screenwriter, and that you were writing, you had a friend, and y'all were writing things together. Um, this conversation is a result of that networking,
Mhm.
right? So you were brave and bold enough to come up and tell me, that what you were working on, and then and then we kind of hit it off, and we've stayed connected a little bit, not as much as I had, not as much as we could, and maybe we should do that going forward. Maybe we write something together soon. But the I can't. I mean, and there's a lot of events that for faith and family friendly type films. There's a lot of events even in our area that are good for networking. There's one up in Springfield. I think there's some out in the Fayetteville area, and the thing about it too is you can always start something up on your own for aspiring filmmakers, and then have people come in and network with you guys that that have made films, and that have a little bit more experience. And it may not be what I'm doing may not be exactly what you want to do, but there's something I could share with you, or someone else could share with you, or you could share with someone else that's beneficial to where you want to go professionally. Um, so there's social media groups. Um, there's lots of things online that didn't exist when I was learning. I had a book called Save the Cat, and I had a dollar bill sitting on the page where I stopped reading it. It was like page 4. Because I'm not, believe it or not, I'm not a big reader. It's a task for me to sit down and read my own scripts. So but I do enjoy reading other people's scripts. Um, I have to force myself to read my scripts on a regular basis because that's usually the beginning of a rewrite. Um, and then networking is going to uh, give you insight on all those different ideas. Well, how do you know, how do you go about rewriting your story or revising it? You hear other people's ideas. I can't express how important it is. Um, uh, Networking is done in a lot of different ways, but I think more importantly, it's a must, especially for young filmmakers and storytellers. Um, I mean, just being able to communicate verbally to people, what's going to help you communicate, you know, on the page, you know,
Mhm.
and once you study, and when you're talking and networking, I would encourage this too, is really pay attention to how people communicate and body language, and of course we should do that if we're going to want to be writers. We should do that in everyday life, and then study those things, those little things, the little intrinsic things that make a character come to life and seem more
Mhm.
real. Uh, Put a prop in their hand, things like that. And when you really study human behavior, you figure out that your writing must mirror that. So I don't know how I got on that part of it, but I will just say, I mean, networking uh, is um, is super important for the creative, especially for us creative, because we crave interaction, uh, or should more so than we do reclusion. I mean, yes, we need to steal away, get alone, get quiet if we're going to write, but you need to have something to feed from.
Kind of going along with networking, wanting to go into the film world, I've constantly heard, if you've got other people around you that want to, connect with them, stay with them, how hard is that though when projects don't align, but you know that these are people that you want to see succeed as well?
You're talking about when projects don't align, or do you mean maybe someone else is not compatible with that project, or
That or just, you want to see this person succeed, you want to bring them on your journey, but they're just not a fit for what you're working on.
uh, yeah. Well, if someone's not a fit, they can still be a friend, and and
Mhm.
and and, and maybe someone worthy of updates, and maybe they can give you good advice if if you value their opinion, uh, and you think they're really skilled and talented. But again, they may not be a fit for your project. It may be that just communicating with them on a regular basis about the status of your own project, and you never know when they may say something that will really encourage you to really push harder and finish. Because, man, how many scripts do you have set and started that that's been you've had 10, 20 pages written for the last year or so?
Right.
Uh, you won't have to answer the question, but I have some, and
Yeah.
um, I met a guy. He was not a screenplay writer, but we networked. He had a friend that was an extra in Running the Bases, and he had a story he was wanting to write a book about. And then he said, "Well, I think this might could be a good film." Just so happened he knew a guy that had been an extra he's friends with, and the guy told him how to reach me, and so he called me. Like I said, he didn't know anything about screenplay writing, but he was early in his career. He was a songwriter in Nashville, and so he told me about this story, and he said, "Would you be interested in turning it into a screenplay? And would it make a good movie?" And so I listened to him tell me the story. He went through the whole story, and at the end of it, he said, "Would it be a good movie?" And I said, "No." And he was like shocked, And I said, "Well, respect." And I say that respectfully. I'm just saying, in its current form,
Mhm.
it it's not it's not the kind of story that would work on screen, and it's not formatted correctly. It's all over the place. So he goes, "Well, could it be? And could you do it?" And I said, "Yes, it could be, and yes, I could do it. And here's what it will cost." And he offered me like half of that. Uh, so I was like, "Okay, I'll tell you what. I will write your story, but every day that we write, I'm going to send you a link, and you're going to get online and you're going to walk this journey with me." Well, first and foremost, with his story. So, and I didn't know it well enough to just start writing, right? So, uh, I developed a way that I I document all the pieces of my story before I start writing it. And it's really helped me get my thoughts together and the different parts of the story, uh, sort of categorize them in the order that they're supposed to be, and where in the story you drop them. And so we spent probably a week just going through his story, and I rearranged him. Like, no, that can't happen there. That's got to happen in Act Two. Oh, well, that's your inciting incident. Why? That's got to be. We got to get that in by page 10, uh, even earlier if possible. And then I said, okay, everything that wound up in the outline that was worthy of being on screen was only. It wasn't his whole story, but I said, well, okay, the rest of it we've got to find compelling things to connect all of this stuff. and
Mhm.
we recreated the hero's journey. We dropped in, we beefed up the characters. Well, through this whole process that was started out as a networking, I think we're still talking about that. It's it started out as networking. He found me, we met, we talked. He goes, "Hey, I got a story." Next thing you know, we're sitting down, and he discovers he's got a gift for story. And we began to collaborate. And I said, "Well, okay." So it shifted from him just being an observer to actually becoming a contributor. And we weren't in the same room together. We were doing what we're doing right now. It was a virtual meeting, and I was sharing my screen. And we were going through the document that we outlined. That was Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And if you follow this outline that I've come up with, you'll write a 100-page script. I mean, almost to the nose. Matter of fact, when it said fade to black, it was at the bottom of page 100. And he goes, "How did that happen?" I said, "Well, we limit ourselves to page count for each section um, of the script. So, the outline has a certain number of bullets per act. Act 2 is a little bit larger because you've got basically 50 pages to work with. But because of all of that networking and because of collaborating, what happened is he turned into a screenplay writer and somebody that I enjoyed collaborating with. And so he knew I had. Um, I thought I had it printed off. I don't normally print screens, but I had print scripts, but I have a few here. So he had heard of this story that I'd written, Judith Rohr, and he said, "Well, what are you going to do with that?" And I said, "Well, I've got 20 pages. If you want to read it, I'll send it." So he read it, and he was like, "Wow, this is pretty epic." And he had heard a DP that I'm friends with. He was talking about because he had read the 20 pages. And was like, "Dude, you got to finish the story." And you knew about it. I
Mhm.
told you about it.
Yes.
And so he goes, "Well, I'll tell you what. Can I help you finish that script?" So this is where having a network of people uh, that you may not be compatible with on every project, but having
Mhm.
someone you trust creatively, uh, man, I can't tell you what a difference that will make in the stories you tell. So we wrote his story, which was called The Pearl, which is right now we have a proof of concept up on Angel right now.
Mhm.
Voting almost closed, but um, we wrote a much better script together on his story than what we would have at this time if I had just written it by myself. Um, I learned that he was someone I could throw my ideas out and they would come back better.
Mhm.
There were things that he wasn't quite mature enough about storytelling, just things that you knew wouldn't work. It's just like, no, that's goofy. No, we can't do that. He had a character who uh, wears white gloves, and I tried and tried to get rid of the white gloves because I didn't like it. I did not like the white gloves. I said, "That's goofy." Well, why is he wearing white gloves? And he told me why, and I didn't like that reason. So, but because he stuck to his guns, it forced me to go find a reason why he wears them. And one day, rarely did I write by myself. But one day, there was a couple-hour window in our day where he wasn't available, and I thought, I am going to write the scene that explains why he wears this glove. And we wasn't even, I don't even sure we were at that part of the story yet. Much later, um, I think it's really late in the second act. So it's like page 80, something like that. And actually before that, um, so somewhere around page early 70s, like 73 or something. So I wrote the scene that makes you go, okay, that's why he works there. Makes sense now. What a cool moment. So, and when he came back in, and I said, I want you to read something. And so I showed it to him, and he was like, now you can finally stop trying to get rid of those gloves. But, and then we started with Judas Roar. We picked up on page 21 because I had 20 pages, and we finished the script. So by having someone like that, he forced me to get off the whatever it is that makes you lazy, and get it done. And so, we wrote a couple days a week for a couple months, and we got it finished. And then we've rewritten it twice since then. It's been not rewritten, but it's been revised twice since then. The
Right.
Pearl's about to start revision 3 because even after you shoot a proof, especially after you shoot a proof of concept, you're going to be making some changes to your script. You're going to see things different, just the way it is.
Looking forward this year, you've mentioned Pearl, you've mentioned Judas Roar. Creatively or professionally, what are your goals for this year?
Well, creatively and professionally, I would really. I have the way I feel about the 3 projects. 2 of them are feature films, and 1 of them is a series. But I have something very distinctively different on how I feel about each one of those projects. The Pearl's a thriller, and I've never directed a thriller. I've directed elements. Um, I've directed the kind of scenes that you would see in a thriller. But professionally, I can't wait to direct that film, and it's the one that's kind of moved to the front of the list right now because
Mhm.
commercially the thriller is getting some attention, and it's a lot cheaper to shoot than Judas Roar. But it's a really cool story. It's really dark and gritty and scary, and you got action, and you know uh, it's a story that reveals a lot of evil hidden in plain sight. And professionally, I can't wait to direct that film because it's going to stretch me in some areas I haven't been stretched in before. Um, it certainly did on writing it. It
Mhm.
was a blast to write it, and if you ever get a chance to write outside a genre that you're not comfortable with, do it. Do it. If you get a chance to write a genre that you wouldn't go there on your own, someone brought me this story, so
Mhm.
I committed to write it. But it wouldn't be a story if I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and write something. Um, I have certain things that I would write about that wind up being dramas, or maybe a rom com. Sad to admit, but I do have an outline for one. The same guy I wrote The Pearl with that brought me the story. We have a rom com outline, and it's always good to have a lower budget story kind of in
Mhm.
your back pocket. So if someone says, I'm really interested in funding one of your films, but that's a little more than I'm in. Do you have anything in the $1 million range? You know, so you pull out your rom com and you go, well, this one could be made for $1 million. So
Right.
professionally, I'm looking for ways to get films made. Um, so the Pearl is kind of that mid-level budget, and when I say mid-level budget ranges, I'm talking about the faith forward, and I'm not really using faith based with any of these stories because I they're different. They're grittier. They're kind of story first type films that look more like studio. They'll look more like Hollywood studio films, but they will be
Mhm.
absent of all the garbage that you have to guard yourself from sometimes. So they're riveting. They're great stories, action, and all those things are in it. Um, but I'm stretching myself professionally and sort of doing other cross genres. Um, so the Pearl will probably be the first one. Making that film will be a huge challenge because it has lots of music performance in it. But again, writing something that I know a little bit about, music performance.
Right.
It's about a country singer uh, who sort of lost his way. I mean, we've all lost our way at times, but he's deep into his career, and some really dark things are going on behind him, and his tour is being used for some really dark stuff, and he has no clue. And it's been going on for years, and you know, he's got to confront it and face it, and his family's in danger. And it turns into a thriller about almost halfway through. Well, it's a thriller right off the bat, but you know, it's entertaining. It's got lots of music. Now, Judas Roar is just a real um, it's kind of an epic musical drama in a way.
Right.
Not to be confused with a musical. It's not that. Uh, but again, another musician story. Rock singer, guitarist, full of himself, that kind of thing. So I think I could do that one easy. Um, and the series, um, now that is going to stretch me professionally because to to write, produce, direct, and edit a series, you've got to relinquish some control. You can't direct every series. You can't write every episode. You can't edit every episode. I can't do that. So this is going to this is going to be one of those projects where uh, I direct a few episodes.
Mhm.
Um, I write in a writer's room uh, with a team of writers. Uh, the other way that project could go is I sell it and I just say
Right.
goodbye to it. I had someone that was willing to sell. I had a producer saying I could sell Judas Roar right now, and I said that one's not for sale. You picked the only one that would want to sell. So she goes, well, I know someone who would fund it right away. I said, well, then get it funded. I will. And they said, no, that's they buy them and they have their own team right now. I said, well,
Right.
that's talk to me a year from now when I'm more desperate. But um, I want to become a better writer. I want to become a better storyteller. I want to become a better filmmaker, better editor in a way, but in another way, I kind of want to get out of the edit suite as well, hand it off to someone else. Um, I want to I want to write a different genre. I want to do a western. I want to do, and I won't live long enough to do all that. So, um, it's up to you. You have to do all the stuff I want. Just kidding.
All right. Well, to kind of wrap things up, you've told us about Judas Roar, you've told us about the Pearl. Is there anything else you'd like to plug, whether it be projects, other people, other films, just whatever it is?
Wow. I think I kind of already did some of that as far as the projects themselves. Networking will help you complete your team. And I'm glad you kind of got off on that topic a little bit because it keeps sneaking its way back in. Networking helped me run into the DP that I want to shoot all my films. And he lived in Branson, 25 minutes from my house. And he shot some big TV shows. If I told you what they were, you would know. They're big shows. Some of them have been series that are still in production for like the 15th, 16th, 17th season of the shows that he's been on. He's done some feature films. He had left Hollywood and he was in Branson, and I was networking with some other guys. I met a professor at a local college who he was over the film department, and he kept telling me, you got to meet this DP. He's right here in Branson. I met him and we hit it off. We're good friends. He's the one that encouraged me to finish the series. It's called Stone County. Um, and so I brought him as one of the creators, and we did some writing together, just kind of tidying up episode 1 or 101 as they call it. And we mapped out 3 seasons, and
Right.
so that one is being looked at. There's two studios that are looking at it to potentially for purchase. And like I said, that one I'm close to it, but it's not Judah's Roar, so I would sell that one. I mean, filmmakers have to make a living, so it's like, how does that happen? You create something somebody wants, and then you have to be willing to let it go. That's those are filmmakers that make money, because they create
Right.
something someone else wants, and they're not so attached to it that you can't pry it out of their hands. And then you just go, okay, well, I'll create something else. So if I would plug any project, I mean, it would be, the Pearl's something I think will probably be, of course I say that's what I think. God always has a way of changing things, of changing your plan, or just telling yours, right? That old saying, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plan. Um, I think The Pearl will be the next film that I make, but I have a slate of 3 projects. Could very well easily be Judah's Roar. It could be something completely different I hadn't thought of yet. I hadn't written yet. But Stone County actually used to be called Boone County. And as I began to develop the project, and I thought, well, I live in Stone County. Let's call it Stone County. And so it's actually a pretty cool series. It's got some pretty wild and crazy characters in it. And then as far as plugging, I'd probably plug someone, and that would be my DP. I don't think he'd mind me saying his name, and you could look him up on IMDb instead of me telling him his projects. You could just go look him up and see for yourself. But his name is Stephen Frakel, and he's a fantastic cinematographer, and he is someone that I plan on making movies with from here on out. We got together and shot the proof of concept for The Pearl, and like I said, that's on Angel right now on the Torch program. So if you're a guild member, you can log on, go to guild member, and skip through other torches, and you'll find The Pearl. Like I said, it's a proof of concept, it's not film.
Right.
And then I would like to plug you, man. I don't know. I guess if people know you, they know
Right.
that you're a really smart, brilliant, creative guy, and a good writer. So I look forward to seeing and catching up with you.
Yes,
We haven't
absolutely.
talked in a while, and I look forward to checking out some of your new work, man, or your old.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter.
Well, I'd like to thank you again for taking the time with me, on behalf of both Panther Productions and Mountain Grove High as a whole. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your story, and you have a blessed rest of your day.
Thanks, Lucas. I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for letting me come on and babble for an hour or so. 48 minutes, anyway. Well, you take care of yourself. Thanks so much. I
You
appreciate it.
too. Absolutely. Thank you.